What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my Forma building guide for this month's Hall of Forms featuring Fallen Lyon, Selena, Young Orchestral, and Summer Joshua. We have 11 new skills added to the Hall of Forms pool up to the Asker banner, so we also have the Oath 4 skill now, which is really hype. Let us begin with Fallen Lyon, as a lot of people are going to be trying to get him. So he has got Blood Tome as his preferred weapon, and he's a Green Infantry Mage, and this weapon gives him the Raven Tome effect, so he has got the weapons triangle advantage against the colorless opponents, and if he's against any kind of ranged opponent, he gets the damage reduced from AoE specials by 80%, and he can also reduce damage from their regular attacks in combat by 50%. So on paper this might look really good, especially with his stat spread, but unfortunately Lyon can really struggle at times for ranged tanking because he doesn't really get any kind of extra stats out of this weapon, and there are also a lot of red threats which can really annoy him. So for a really long time Duo Lift has been that kind of unit, but now we also have Duo Chrom, and we just have so many other units which can pierce through the damage reduction now, especially range units with Deadeye and Lethality, so that does become a bit of a problem. And also the fact that he doesn't have any kind of auto follow-up, so he has to rely on quick riposte, and if he falls below the HP of quick riposte, then he's going to be missing out on the kills. So there are definitely a couple of things which can hinder him in his performance. Not to mention nowadays we just have far save tanks, so not only save tanks can just tank but also protect your allies from getting sniped. So it is going to be a bit hard to use Lyon competitively, but if you really like him a lot, then you can try and use him in the Aster season or in the Aether Raids Chaos season with some support. And I'm only going to be recommending to get him if you're a big Lyon fan, because he's not going to be standing out too much as a tank. But keep in mind that arcane weapons are a thing now, and if he gets any kind of really good arcane weapon that just goes well with tanking, then he's going to be having a really good time. Not to mention he's probably going to be getting a weapon refine in a year or more, because we are going to be getting done with the Gen 3 refines in a couple of months, so that is always going to be on the table. So if you want to build him up, then you have to completely overhaul his base kit, and you can also get a merge for him in the Divine Codes too. So if you're trying to get a merge project done, then that could really help. So for his weapon, you're going to be running Blood Tome most of the time, but you can also try and get Grand Vulture or Snow Globe as the alternate weapons. So Grand Vulture is going to be a solo weapon that can give him a lot more attack and resistance debuff in the combat, and Snow Globe basically has attack and resistance unity built into it. As for his skills, I would say that Sturdy Stance 3 is easily one of the best skills that you can get on him, because it's also rare and it's not as easy to get like Mirror Stance 3, which is already available in Divine Codes, and it also provides you with the guard effect, which is so important for Fallen Lyon as a slow unit who's going to get doubled pretty much all the time. So the guard effect is going to be amazing for the tanking, and you can also try and get Bracing Stance as an alternate option if you don't get Sturdy Stance, but I definitely like Sturdy Stance a lot more because missing kills with Lyon is going to be a big downfall of his many times, because units can just teleport with Wings of Mercy like dancers if he fails to get a kill. So having that extra attack out of Sturdy Stance is really good in my opinion. And if you're going to be running him with a support like Kaden, who can provide you the Drive Guard, or if you run him with some Ruse ally, then I guess you can try and go with Attack Resistance Unity if you already have the Stand skill on him. But yeah, Stand skill is going to be the way to go for enemy phase tanking. And unfortunately in this Hall of Forms patch, there's no Tempo skill or the Finish skill available, so Lull Attack Resistance is pretty much going to be the best premium option for his slot B, and there are just not many premium options that you can pick up. Maybe Special Spiral, I guess, if you already have Lull Attack Resistance, but yeah, in terms of tanking, this is going to be the skill to help. And for slot C, Attack Smoke 4 is definitely an amazing option for Lyon, and I would say that this is pretty much going to be the best option because it gives him the follow-up negation, which is really great for tanking against the units who don't have null follow-up or any kind of auto follow-up and they're faster than him, because he can deny the doubles of some of the enemies, and that can really help him in terms of tanking, especially with the guard skill. Not to mention this can also debuff the attack of the opponents and also buff up his defense and resistance, which is always really helpful as a tank. So I would definitely recommend this skill. Young Orchestral is a cavalry healer with Staff of Roston as her preferred weapon. This weapon already has Wrathful Staff built into it, and at start of turn she can inflict -6 visible debuff and the flash status on the closest enemy within 5 spaces of her. So this can definitely be pretty useful for just attacking the enemy safely, and a lot of people did use her in Aether 8's defense when she was released, but then save tanks just became a lot more common, so you can just have another ally take this flash status and still let the save tank retaliate back to Laura Shell. This weapon also provides her with +6 attack and speed in combat, so that is definitely pretty good offensively in her player phase. So overall this weapon is pretty good, but you can definitely try and get some other weapons that can provide more support or just some other effects, and her stat spread as an offensive healer is definitely pretty nice with base 37 attack and base 38 speed, so she can definitely do that offensively and hit pretty hard. Her base kit is already pretty nice with attack speed push 4 and the trace skill, not to mention also having rescue, which a lot of healers would kill for, but if you want to give her more premium skills, then you can try and run something like this. So for her weapon, you can definitely try and get Grand Scratcher Plus, which is one of the rare staff, and it's also pretty good for just decreasing the special cooldown of the highest attack ally. So this can definitely be used in Aether 8's defense. Flash and Melancholy are also the options depending on what kind of team you're running. So I've definitely seen a lot of Flash, Laura Shells, and even Melancholy Laura Shell in Aether 8's defense. So that could work out because her preferred weapon doesn't really flash more than one opponent most of the time. And Melancholy can just reset the Hardy Fighter armors and their defensive special, so that can be really helpful for your team. And for her assist, you can try and get Return Plus, which is basically a healing reposition. And the next best thing after Rescue Plus, actually I do like Return Plus a bit more honestly. And because she has Windfire Bomb, you can just get the complete opposite of it in Earth Water Bomb. And for slot A, the upgrade of the push skill is going to be the cat skill, which is going to be having good synergy with the debuffs that she can do with her preferred weapon and many of the staffs that you can try and get. Dazzling Staff is going to be the best option to pick up here because like I mentioned before, a lot of save tanks can just have another ally take the flash status and then Laura Shell is going to be getting retaliated back. So having Dazzling Staff means that even if she faces a save tank, she's going to be able to safely attack them. Of course, except for Ascended Fiarm. So Dazzling Staff is going to be helpful with her preferred weapon and also with the other staff. And if you already have this, if you are a big Laura Shell fan, then you can try and get Lull Speed Resistance, I guess. There are not too many options for healers as it is, and even less so for a Cavalier. And finally, for her slots, you can try and get Odd Recovery, which is an amazing support skill that healers can run. It's not really as good as it once was in Aether 8's defense after the safety fence, but still it could be nice, especially if you destroy someone's safety fence and if you have a high threat range team. So that could be useful, so you can try and get that. The other slots, the options are going to be Joint Drive Attack and Attack Speed Menace. So if you're going to be running her preferred weapon and if you're just going to be using her offensively, then the Menace skill can be a really nice thing for just getting a lot of debuffs on the opponent along with her preferred weapon. Selena is a Blue Mage Cavalier with Tome of Storms as her preferred weapon. This can provide her +3 speed and she can also get +5 attack and speed in combat as well as null follow-up. So this allows Selena to run Wind Sweep in her slot B or even Water Sweep if you want to not get counter-tagged by the distant counter Sacred Steel Dragons. So that option is really good and makes her a pretty unique Blue Cavalier among the bunch. And I honestly like Selena a lot as a character. I used her so much in my Aether 8's defense right after her launch, and I definitely got some good results with her, but as time went on, it became a bit annoying for her, especially because she was not able to hit as hard against a lot of the save tanks, and because she doesn't have -1 special cooldown, she couldn't really trigger a special on her double. You can of course use her with Brattle Catch your team so that she can just quad attack and still have Wind Sweep. So that is something you can do. So overall, Selena is a pretty nice Blue Mage Cavalier and a unique one because of having null follow-up in her preferred weapon. And if you like her a lot, then you can definitely try and revamp her entire kit. Life and Death 4 is nice, but you can try and get Attack Speed Catch 4, which can give you even more attack and speed. And it does have good synergy if you run a Menace skill or if you just have debuffs. And you can try and get some other alternate weapon if possible, like Flora Guide or Drifting Race Plus. Of course, most of the time you're still going to be using her Tome of Storms, but in case you want to try that, it's always an option. Fortress skill is going to be the best lobby skill to pick up here, even if you're just going to be running her with Wind Sweep. It's a really good premium option to get, especially just as an alternate option. And if we see a lot more null counter disrupt units in future, like Ascended Fiarm, then she can definitely try and pivot to this Fortress skill in that distant future. For her Slotsy, she does have a couple of options depending on where you're going to be using her. So Fatal Smoke or Pulse Smoke can be nice for Ether Raid's defense, and she can safely apply the Deep Wounds effect with the Wind Sweep, which can be pretty nice, except for Ascended Fiorm, of course. Ascended Fiorm is going to be eating her alive, so that's why you probably want to run her with a red threat like Duocrom, who can take care of Ascended Fiorm for you. So Fatal Smoke is going to be really nice for Ether Raid's defense, but if you just want to use her for the general content or outside of Ether Raid's defense, then Attack Speed Menace is going to be a pretty nice option, and it does have good synergy with the Cat skill. And you can also try and run Colorless Feud or Blue Feud, especially Blue Feud against a lot of the Ascended Idunns and like Brave Hectors and such. So it could be helpful in Ether Raid's defense if you don't want to run Fatal Smoke on her. And Colorless Feud is always really nice because we have a lot of support units that are colorless, and this could also help you in Ether Raid's defense. The final unit of this batch is going to be Summer Joshua, and he is a 5-star lock seasonal unit without a preferred weapon, so unfortunately we don't really see him that much, but he's available in the Divine Codes too, so you could just get +1 Joshua after getting him as a Forma unit. Unfortunately for him, we did get a Gren in the Binding Blade Hall of Forms, who's also a Red Infantry Archer, and she's going to be getting her weapon refined to her preferred weapon, but keep in mind that arcane weapons are a thing now, and bows can be inheritable to the different colors. So you can just inherit a bow from a colorless unit, even if you're a Red Infantry Archer like him. So if you get a good arcane bow, then he could definitely make good use of it. And if you're a big fan of him, you can try and get that, but then you'll probably just have to wait for the arcane weapon to show up if you really want to give him a very solid weapon. So he of course needs a complete overhaul to his kit, and until he gets Arcane Bow, you can try and get Whitecap Bow, which is an amazing offensive option, and he can easily quad attack with his offensive stat spread. And if you don't really mind spending the feathers or the grails trying to get Whitecap Bow from Summer Elincia, then you can try and get some other premium bows which are not available as easily, like Springy Bow, Fire Sweep Bow, or even Spendthrift Bow. Of course, he's an archer, so try and get Deadeye on him. And for his Slotty, he has got two solid options in Attack Speed Ideal and Attack Speed Unity. So both of these skills are going to be having good synergy with the Oath skill, and Attack Speed Ideal gives you the most offenses, which is really nice with Whitecap Bow Plus, especially for getting the quad attacks and the brave hits essentially, and Attack Speed Unity is going to be protecting you against the debuffs, so it's also a pretty solid option. So it really depends on which one you want to get. I kind of like the Ideal skill more on low investment, but if you have him at higher investment, then Attack Speed Unity is something that you can pick up. And for Sloppy, Tempo skill is going to be the best option here because not only it's a rare skill, but it's actually very good offensively as well in the combat. So he can not get stopped by the guard effect, and he can also stop the special acceleration skills of the opponents. Null Follow-Up also works really well with his Sloppy, but it's a lot easier to get out of the Divine Codes, and so many units have it available as a fodder. So you can just try and capitalize on this Forma unit and get the rare skill like Tempo, which is still really good in combat. For his Slotsy, he definitely has two options here. I like Attack Speed Oath for a lot more here because it is just so good offensively. Not only can give you extra attack and speed, but it also gives you the teleportation, which is so fun to use. And it does have pretty good synergy with both of the Slotty options that you can get. But of course, because you're getting Deadeye, and if you are going to be running some other weapon on him, then Time Pulse does make sense and you can try and get that. But I'm a big fan of Attack Speed Oath 4 and the things it can do. And just teleportation with an infantry unit is so fun, and the range is also a lot better from the usual Oath skills, so this can trigger if he's just within 2 spaces of an ally. So those are all of the premium options that you can run, and next month we're going to be having the Tokyo Mirat session, Hollow Forms Revival, as Faye went over that in the Faye channel. We kind of got a sneak peek of the October update in a way, so it is going to be happening next month, and after that, the revivals of Hollow Forms is going to be decided by the Twitter poll, similar to how the Forging Bonds revival is decided, so you can vote on that. And with these Hollow Forms revivals, you're also going to be having a Spark banner to go along with it, so you can Spark after 40 summons and just try and Spark the Forma unit that you already got, so you can try and get merges for them. And one amazing news is that IS themselves have confirmed through the customer support that Forma units are going to be mergeable into each other. So we didn't really know about this because such a situation has never happened. You couldn't get 2 copies of the same Forma unit before. So if you got a Kyria way before as a Forma unit, if you now get her as a Forma unit with the updated skills, you're just going to be able to merge your Forma Carrier into this new Forma Carrier, which is an amazing news. And because we have this revival, I think we're not going to be getting a Path of Radiance Holo Forms in the same month, and we're probably going to be getting that in November. So this way they can just slow down the Holo Forms essentially, because they are kind of running out of some of the units in many of the games. So as for the November's Path of Radiance Holo Forms, these are the units which you can expect. In my opinion, these have the most possibility of showing up. So unfortunately, Path of Radiance only has 2 mages left, and if you haven't noticed, every single Holo Forms does have some kind of magical damage in a dragon or as a mage. So Valentine, Titania, and Ileana are pretty much the only options left. So it has to be either one of them in this Holo Forms patch. And there are also not too many green units left in the Path of Radiance pool. Jill is the oldest green unit, so she does have a pretty good chance, and Astrid could also happen. Even though she just appeared last year, she's still present in the Divine Code section, and sometimes they do put these Divine Codes units in Holo Forms, as we see with even just Fallen Lyon and Summer Joshua in this Holo Forms itself. And Gatry could happen again, Divine Codes and Shinon could be the colorless option, or they could just skip the colorless option altogether. Zihar could also be an option if they choose to go with Ileana. They're probably not going to be putting both Titania and Ileana at the same time, because if they do that, then they are probably not going to be having 2 Grail units at the same time. So if Titania gets run, then Petrine is probably not going to be there. If Petrine is there, then Titania is probably not going to be there. So very limited options. So come back in November to see if my speculation and prediction was right or wrong. And I hope you all enjoyed this Holo Forms guide. If you did, then make sure to share this video with your friends if they are trying to build up any of these units. And if you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Selena's win sweep against Ascended Fiorm. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.